And now, moving on, I would like to invite, as you've probably seen from the signs here, I'd like to welcome to the stage Ismail Ertug, member of the European Parliament, who you saw earlier, and His Excellency Mr. Akbar Al-Bakr, the Group CEO of Qatar Airways and Chairman of Qatar Tourism, to discuss the future of aviation and the next 20 years. A very important topic, I'm sure you will all understand, because without airlift into countries, which was severely reduced due to COVID, obviously tourism cannot take off again. Excuse the pun. So I would like to welcome these two gentlemen to the stage, please. A round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you very much. Good morning once again. Dear Akbar, now we have the opportunity to discuss a little bit more in depth about the situation in the aviation sector, and I know you now for some years, and I know also how can I say that, with which emotion you are doing your job, and you are well connected. You know all of the CEOs all around the globe. You know all the difficulties in the sector, and I guess when we look to the last 1.5 years within or in the midst of the pandemic, when I'm not wrong, I have elaborated a little bit on the latest McKinsey study from 2020, Mr. Al-Bakr. The industry revenues totaled by $328 billion, around 40% of the previous years. And in nominal terms, that's the same as in 2000, 20 years ago. The amount. And the sector is expected to be smaller for years to come, and we project traffic won't return to 2019 levels before 2024. And when we say we, I think we mean as the European Union, the European Commission numbers and so on. I want to know now from you, Mr. Al-Bakr, about the current status of the aviation sector and how the industry is responding to ongoing issues presented by the global COVID-19 pandemic and moving forward to restore air travel and tourism around the world. Please.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ismail, for inviting me to this very important debate. First and foremost, unfortunately, the COVID pandemic devastated our industry. Millions of jobs were lost. Thousands of aircraft were grounded. The tourism industry was decimated, but there is always, in every calamity, there is light at the end of the tunnel. What really happened was unprecedented, and as you know, for over a century we never faced something like that. However, the tourism and the aviation industry is very resilient. The entire world is so dependent on these two industries for commerce, for jobs, for transportation. And as you can already see, as soon as the countries are opening up, the movement in the industry, both the tourism and aviation, is getting back. But what really impeded the growth faster, or at least a slight turnaround, was due to the panic and the protocols and the restrictions imposed by countries. And each country, every other week, would bring a new protocol. So this was really frightening people from traveling, from moving around. And when the airlines last year completely grounded their aeroplanes, that really did the worst impact in our industry, both tourism and of course aviation. And now you can see the repercussions of what happened due to the hasty decisions made by governments and of course the industry. When you look at Qatar Airways, at the onset of the pandemic, why I'm telling you about Qatar Airways, to tell you that if you do not react in the wrong way, there is always hope of continuing at least some parts of our life normally. Qatar Airways never stopped flying. Yes, we reduced our network, we grounded nearly 85% of our fleet, but we made sure that we tapped on the opportunity we had to serve our passengers, where every other airline around the world abandoned their passengers. We had millions of people stranded all over the world. And it was our duty as an airline to keep people transported to their loved ones, to their homes, to their livelihood, because it was important that when this whole pandemic unfolded, that people needed to get back to their loved ones, to go back to their homes, to see what is happening in their families. And you know, because of these wrong decisions by airlines, of course, I know why they did it, because they wanted to burn less cash, they wanted to reduce the losses that they will have to gain. But you know, we, as an industry, we need to be with our passengers and with our people at good times and at bad times. And when this whole pandemic unfolded, during the first 2 months, we carried nearly 3.2 million people to their homes. And then we realized that every downturn has also a slight upturn in other places. You know, it's like a pendulum. It swings in both ways. And in this, we were very resilient as an airline, and we started to ramp up our network, and eventually, we were the only airline that became the largest long-haul operator in the world. Coming to trade, we also made sure, and we were the inventors of using the grounded commercial airplanes to carry freight. And we were also an inventor of even a better way of transporting cargo in the bellies and main deck of our airplanes by removing the seats and getting regulatory approvals to use the passenger airplanes for cargo. And then we became the largest cargo operator in the world, though we were already the largest operator of cargo in the world, minus UPS and FedEx, before the pandemic. We became by far the largest operator of cargo. So why I'm giving you all these statistics is to tell you that yes, our industry was devastated, but as people get vaccinated, as people get herd immunity, and herd immunity will only come, and this industry, both the tourism and aviation, will only recover when we have herd immunity. And I hope that we do not have a mutated virus again like Delta, because the less people get vaccinated, there is a very high chance of the virus mutating again. And then we will have to find an even more potent vaccine. So I hope that the message really, for whatever forums we sit in, is to give a message to the people that they need, in the interest of themselves, their families, the world, that they need to get vaccinated fast enough so that we can reinvigorate these two very important industries that provides the livelihood to millions of people and develops trade. You can see that with what happened in the pandemic, Now there is shortage of ships to carry freight. There is shortage of aeroplanes to deliver the important supply chain continuity. All this is such a vicious circle. And it is important that we give the correct message to the people that these two industries, I know that the subject that I'm being asked about is aviation, but me wearing hat of the chairman of tourism in my country and the CEO of an airline, that these two industries go hand in hand and has huge potential, provided governments don't impede its progress by keeping on changing protocols every time somebody sneezes.
Thank you very much, Akbar. Partially, you already responded to my second question, but I would like to dig a little bit more into the detail. Some airlines have responded by restructuring for greater efficiency, and others are merely muddling through. But you, as Qatar Airways, I think when I'm not wrong, you've been the only airline who flied through the pandemic. Could you tell us a little bit more about, I don't want to say about secret issues, but tell us a little bit more about your vision, or what was the difference to Qatar Airways to all the others?
You know, an airline is a business. And as a businessman, you'll always tap on any single opportunity you have. People have to travel. Trade has to happen. You cannot just shut the door and say that now we don't want to move anymore. When we started transporting people, we were also noticing that the traffic was not all one way. People wanted to come back and visit people. I'm sure you all know that you don't like this, what we are doing through TV, looking at each other, discussing business on the screen. People are hungry to travel. You can see that, I sit on the board of Heathrow. There were times that we were 4 times the traffic at Heathrow at Hamad International. As soon as Britain announced that they are going to open, United States put a date when they will allow Europeans to travel. We see a huge uptake in travel, huge uptake in bookings. So you can see that once you start, chickening out, not wanting to do your business, using the opportunity of pandemic to clean your books, to lay off people, to save money as an excuse of pandemic, not looking at the long picture, the big picture. I'll give you an example. I don't want to name an airline. Now they want to ramp up, but because the way they reacted, they are now losing huge opportunity to start operating in the way the demand is there. And this is where we come, because we did not stop operating. We kept on serving people. Now all those people that cannot cater for their passengers are now looking at Qatar Airways to transport them. So there is a huge opportunity, but you need to be very bold. You need to really take decisions that for the short term may not be in your interest. But you should always look at the long term. In our industry, you don't think about just 1 year or 6 months. You look at least a decade horizon in how you need to plan yourself. And in this way, Qatar Airways has been very aggressive. And this is where we are. The result shows.
Thank you. You said you have to make some plans, a vision for the next, at least for the next 10 years. And this leads me to the next question. and I really want to know this as a politician who is doing for more than 12 years transport and mobility politics. What is your outlook for the whole sector, for the future of the air travel sector?
First and foremost, to be very frank, the industry for the next decade will not be the same that it was in the previous decade. Airlines have folded. There will be some more airlines that will fold. There will become more efficient companies. So the air travel demand, percentage-wise, will be very strong. In addition to this, as you know, and as you're a politician in the EU, that there will also be in the next decade, 2 decades, huge pressure on sustainability of our industry. Even though our industry, aviation I mean, is one of the lowest CO2 emitters when you look at the entire global transportation industry. But of course, because we are so high profile, that people look at us as one of the biggest polluters. People forget that airlines, and I can talk about then Qatar Airways, we have always been in the forefront of investing in sustainability. Why are we keeping the youngest fleet of any airline in the world? Is because we are looking at sustainability. We are trying to make sure that as the emissions are concerned, that we try to conserve our fuel burn, our CO2 emissions, by investing heavily on new technology. Qatar Airways was the launch customer for the 787. We were the launch customer for Airbus A350. We are the launch customer of 777X. We were the launch customer of the 320neos. Why did we become launch customers? Because we were guaranteed by the manufacturer that there will be between 18 and 20% less fuel consumption, which equates to that much percentage of less emissions. And we are in the forefront of making sure the sustainable aviation fuel is available, that oil companies need to invest. They don't want to invest because they have commitments, they have investments in oil fields, and they don't want to go away from that before they get their return on investment. But the return of investment will only happen when you sustain the world, the climate. That is the investment that people should do. And we, together with IATA and ICAO, are pushing for a sustainable industry so that we already have imposed targets on us of reducing our emissions, having zero carbon growth over a period of time. So this will be the next decade or 2 decades where airlines will have to invest in order for us to deliver what is expected from us environmentally. And when you look at what will happen over the next 10 years in the industry, like I said earlier, we will be more efficient, we will have less airlines that will be flying, but that will also give airlines that are strong, both in Europe, in the United States, and around the world, to grow, who have really a very strong vision of how to overcome these huge hurdles that will be put in our way as an industry.
You are also well familiar with the politics of the European Union, and I'm sure you know also that we as the European Union,
I don't want to talk politics. You will drag me into saying
No,
something
no, no.
controversial.
I know you are very open and frank when you respond. But I just want to bring another perspective into this discussion. You know, we at the European Union, we want to become the first continent, 2050, fully CO2 neutral. And for this, we have, as the European Commission did before the summer break, we have now a legislation package named Fit for 55. And there is also a very important legislation, the refuel aviation. What do you think about this as a CEO? It's not politician, but
we welcome every move that is put forward to save our planet, and we will invest. This is a very short answer to your question. We support all environmental improvement and neutral growth policies made by any government, regardless where they are, in Europe or anywhere else. We just hope that aircraft manufacturers, engine manufacturers, develop technologies that will help us to achieve that. Look, Ismail, you need to know that the world cannot stay without aviation. Let us face that. Let us not dig our head into the sand and say that, well, we will find alternate way to travel, we will travel by train, no need to travel on an aeroplane to save the planet. This is just hearsay. Aviation plays a very important part in our lives, okay? And people don't realize that. I'll just give you, going away from this subject, a small example. There is a huge environment promoting individual, made lot of noises. But when that individual wanted to go to a very high profile climate conference, said, we'll travel by boat. Fine. That individual traveled by boat. But at the end of the day, after arriving by boat to a destination, had to take a 1-hour flight to get to where the conference was. So what I'm trying to say is that we need to find solutions. Yes, I 101% support that we should have a sustainable carbon neutral growth in not only aviation, but in everything we do. We are already in Qatar Airways introducing a lot of processes and procedures in order to be sustainable. But there has to be a collective effort. You cannot just do it by one industry. It has to be done with everything we do in order to achieve the targets that Europe wants to put. And there has to be incentives. There are some poor countries which will not be able to afford. There are some countries who are rich, but also don't want to invest. And this is what exactly we need to do. We need to work to save our planet collectively, and not individually by a company or by a continent.
Yes, fully correct. We have to save our planet. This is without doubt. And I think also without doubt we need all of our transport modes. But let me finally come to another point, I think, which is positive in your eyes, the EU-Qatar Air Agreement. Now, when I'm not wrong, in a few days it will be signed by the member states, and then it should be in the future, in the near future, would be adopted. I know that you have worked hard in the last years and months. What do you think about this final good outcome?
I'm very excited about it. You know, we as an airline want to serve people. We as an airline want to connect people. And like I said, aviation is playing such an important part to connect people. This is not about because we want to just come and sign this agreement. This agreement was very important for both my country and also for Europe, because we negotiated this agreement for many years. We had a lot of pushbacks from every single corner. But what was important is that the benefit the Comprehensive Air Services Agreement brought to Europe. It covered all their concerns. It covers all their issues. It covered all the matters that is important for EU, which was never done with anybody in our region. We were one of the few. And actually, in our region, we were the only one that persevered, accepted, and at the end, this agreement is a win-win for both sides. And I would like to really appreciate what your colleagues in the transportation, in the EU Transportation Commission did to achieve this very important milestone. And it shows the commitment from Qatar Airways to Europe, from my country to Europe, that we are there as partners and we respect each other's requirement in the field of aviation. And I hope it will not only be in the field of aviation, but in general, in everything we do together.
Thank you very much, Akbar, for this final response. I have to say, I want to talk to you longer, but now we have to leave these beautiful places and the next panel will start. But don't forget, this event should take place every year. In 2022, we are also planning this Leaders Summit in Brussels. And I hope that I can ask you next year more questions about the FIFA World Cup. As a big football fan, I would do it. But let's do it next year. In that sense, thank you very much, Akbar, for your valuable question. And
thank you.
Merci.